and I'll be the moderator for today's training session. Welcome everyone once again. I'm sure that we are ready for today's session. And at the end of today's training, we'll be going with so much more wealth of knowledge than we attended this session from. Let me take a look at our participants list and see those. Our facilitators are already with us. Welcome. Thank you so much, Boluwatife. Thank you so much, Chima. Thank you, Ekong Anthony, for joining quite early. Thank you, Emelda Udenze. Thank you, Fumlayo Kunle Omokwe. Thank you so much, Gideon. Grace, Anna, we see you. Thank you, Idris Jumoke. Thank you, Kalu Doka. Thank you, Able Luis Ebode. Thank you so much, Martin Uche. Thank you, Moduro Toluwa. Thank you so much. Thank you, Eyo. Thank you, Mbak Obeten. We see you. Thank you so much, Samson, for joining quite early. So, the list is endless. Thank you so much, Victoria, Victor. Thank you, Emmanuel. Thank you, Stella Adedeji, for joining quite early. So we're just going to get to know ourselves more before the session commences in few minutes. A very big thank you for the privilege to be the moderator for today. Thank you to our great association for appointing me to handle this section this evening. So for today, our topic remains critical capabilities for building a successful HR career. You see, many of us have wealth of experience, exposure, hands-on experience for our career and as HR professionals. But today, our facilitators are going to be telling us more things that we need to know about how we need to look at being successful with our HR career, critical factors that we need to highlight for the journey so far and the one ahead. We're also going to be looking at critical capabilities for a successful HR career, areas such as understanding business acumen. In today's world, if you're not adding value to your organization, the company will just be like, why are we keeping you? So today's discussion is going to cover things like strategic thinking. You need to think out of the box. There needs to be a shift mindset in every single one of our of the way we do our we do our activities where we work. How we are going to apply emotional intelligence to people that work with us, even understanding our own self first. So our learning outcomes will cover every one of these things that I've mentioned. Before we proceed to meet our panelists for today, I would like us to just use one of the emojis, the smileys, to represent yourself, to show that I'm actually speaking to everybody here. It would be nice to say hi, hello. Please use the chat box. Just drop your messages so I can see that you're following the session. Thank you, everyone. Yes, good evening, Idris. Yes, thank you so much. I see you. Thank you, Jumoke. Thank you, Toyin. Thank you, Larry. Thank you so much, everyone. Let it keep coming in. Yes. Yeah. Before we welcome our panelists on board for this great discussion, I also want to use the opportunity to say congratulations to all the newly inductees, those people that came through the professional route, the executive route, through the examination route. Congratulations is a big one. If you're here, say, yay, I made it. If you're here, say, yes, I made it. I'm one of the inductees. Yes, I'm seeing them. Congratulations, every single one of you. I'm one of them, MCIPM, Chomamo. Thank you very much. You can also congratulate me. Congratulations to everybody. Yes, I see you. Candidate says she's glad to be here. Yes, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much. Let it keep coming in. One of the cheerleaders, wow, Toyin. Thank you so much. Thank you, Larry. Congratulations to every single one of us. Yay, I made it. Elmelda is one of us. Congratulations. I see you. Yeah, Idris, yeah, congratulations. Emo says he's one of the coaches. Thank you, sir, for making the experience awesome. Congratulations. Yes, he trained all of us. we are glad to be a part of this this session. It was a tough one, but I mean, we've conquered. Thank you so much, everybody. Oh, Prince, thank you. Congratulations, everyone. Yes, to the discussion for today, we have 4 panelists that will take us through certain discussions so that our thoughts, our ideas, our input as individuals, as human resource professionals will be enhanced. So join me in welcoming first of our panelists is Ahmed Ladan Gobril, FCIPM. Let's put our hands together using the smiley, the emoji. So Mr. Gobril, you're welcome. If you're here, please say good evening, unmute your mic and say good evening to everybody before I introduce the next.
Thank you very much.
Good evening.
Thank you very much. Good evening, all. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. So please just hold on for us so that we can introduce the other 3 persons. Thank you so much. So everybody, please welcome Mr. Gobril. Yes, say hi. Good evening to him. I'm sure he has so much things to tell us because at the end of this session, for Mr. Gobril's session and the other panelists, we are going to possess a comprehensive understanding of the critical capabilities that is required for a successful HR career. Yes, I can assure you that our speakers for today, for this panel discussion, they are well equipped and you're going to go back with so much knowledge. Thank you, Mr. Gobril. You're welcome. So I would like us to also join me welcome Madam Chidinma Justina Obiejesi, MCIPM. Madam, you could also unmute your mic and say hello to everybody. So we could put...
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Good evening. I'm waving to you. Hello, glad to be here to learn, share knowledge, and interact.
Yes, she's one of our panelists. Yes, we can see you now. We can see you. Thank you so much, Madam. You're welcome. So please, let's join Mr. Gobril and wait for us. So please put your hands together with your smiley in the inbox. Welcome, Madam, to the session. Yes, thank you. You're welcome, ma'am. So our next panelist is Adeyemi Akinfemi, FCIPM. It's a big one. Mr. Adeyemi Akinfemi, if you're here, kindly unmute your mic so that you could say hello to everybody. You are welcome to this session. So please, let's welcome Mr. Adeyemi. Use the emoji, use your smiley, welcome him to this session. So I would like to hear from you. Everybody wants to see your face before the discussion commences. Thank you so much.
Hello,
okay.
Can you hear me? Because we lost
we
the
can
voice.
hear you. Okay,
All
thank
right.
you, sir.
Good evening,
everyone.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening.
Thank you so much. You're welcome. Okay,
Right.
we're still welcoming our panelists. We have the last person here, Madam Adiola Adekpigba, MCIPM. So let's welcome her. Madam, I would like to see your face before the full panelist, everybody comes on board for us to have this discussion. Please, let's use our emoji to welcome her on board. Thank you so much for creating our time to join us for this session. We are happy to have all 4 panelists with us today. Adiola Adekpigba, yes, MCIPM. Thank you all for welcoming them to this session. It's going to be a strategic one. It's going to be one that is going to be so impactful. I can assure you that you'll also be learning things about how to leverage data-driven insight to make informed decisions and how these data can be measured. You're going to have strategic sessions on how to become a more strategic leader. We'll talk about leadership today and also emotional intelligence. These are things that have been identified that we need for our day-to-day activities, how to manage our operational activities, how to become successful with our career progression as HR professionals. So without saying so much, I'm going to give way for our panelists to take some of the questions I have for them. But before then, let's have a brief intro. Mr. Adeyemi, since we can see you on the screen, please, sir, do us the honors. Kindly introduce yourself very briefly. Just say in the next few seconds. Then we'll take the next panelist. Thank you.
Okay, Chioma, Joe, it seems like your voice is fading in and out. I'm hoping it's not my own network. I couldn't hear you at some point. My name is Adeyemi Ajayi. I'm a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management of Nigeria and a member of the Governing Council of the Institute. I work for Synlab Nigeria. Synlab is a global medical diagnostics company with a headquarters in Germany. I oversee the HR function in Nigeria, and I also oversee the HR function in 12 other countries in Europe, Africa, and Middle East. I have extensive experience in HR, covering over 16, 17 years, and I've moved around different sectors and industry from manufacturing, financial services, professional services, healthcare, and logistics. So I'm happy to be here this evening to discuss, and also learn from everyone. Thank you very much, Chioma.
Thank you so much, Mr. Adeyemi. Thank you for that brief introduction. So on point. With all this, your experience, we are ready. Today, we want to gain so much from you on this discussion. Thank you so much. Madam Chidima Justina, please can we hear briefly from you, a brief introduction of yourself, just for some few seconds. Thank you. Okay. Mr. Adeyemi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Chairman.
Oh, okay. So I
Yes,
think
yes, we can.
While we're waiting for Chidima Justina to come on to give us a brief intro about herself, I'd like Mr. Ahmed Gobril to please take the turn of introducing himself very briefly.
Okay.
Mr. Ahmed, please, you can introduce yourself very briefly.
Thank you very much, Chioma. My name is Ahmed Ladan Gobir. I'm a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management. I'm a fellow of the Nigerian Institute of Management. I am a member of the International Bar Association, the Commonwealth Lawyers Association, and of course, the Nigerian Bar Association. I'm a barrister and solicitor of the Supreme Court of Nigeria. I'm an HR professional and a corporate lawyer with over 30 years of experience in both HR and the practice of law. I currently work for Dangote Cement PLC. I'm designated as Group General Manager and Strategic HR Business Partner for the commercial function and our Anglophone subsidiaries. The commercial function, of course, being sales and marketing, international trade and export, international trade and export, yes, depot and logistics, and of course the 6 Anglophone locations of Ethiopia, Ghana, South Africa, Sierra Leone, Tanzania, and Zambia. I sit at the corporate head office in Lagos. I've had the privilege of working in Zambia, Dangote Cement Zambia, as senior HR advisor, and of course Dangote Cement Ethiopia as senior HR advisor. I'm very passionate about HR and people, and I'm here to share knowledge and to also, of course, take some learnings, of course, from our colleagues on the call. Thank you very much for having me.
What do we want to teach you? Please, when are we going to be like you? I want to be like you when I grow up.
Thank you, Chioma.
Wow, such a great and amazing profile. Thank you, Mr. Adeyemi. Thank you, Mr. Ahmed Gobro. Thank you so much. I mean, I'm already getting so excited already. I don't know if Chidima Justina Obie JC is ready to take a brief introduction before we enter the discussion proper.
Yes, I am.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yes, I am, and apologies for that delay.
Okay,
well, with Mr. Gobri introducing himself, I don't know what I will introduce again, but my name is Chidima Justina Obie JC, MCIPM. I'm a strategic HR partner. I work with Mega Electrics Limited, which is a media, the holding firm for your Beat FM, Classic FM, Lagos Stocks, and Niger FM. I'm sure if you listen to radios, you will be familiar with those FMs. Yes, I've been in the industry for over 2 decades. My experience goes from automobile to IT to oil and gas, and then media. I also worked in the consulting industry. So here I am. I'm a fellow of the Nigerian Institute of training and development, and a full member of CIPM. I also belong to some business network, international. So thank you. That is my humble CV.
Thank you. Yes.
Right.
Thank you. I mean, I'm already seeing what people are writing on the comment section, you know, the chat message. They want to be like all of you when they grow up. Even me, myself, I don't even know where to start from. Thank you so much,
Me too.
Mr.
We are
Hamlet.
still
Thank
learning.
you. Thank you. So I don't know if Adiola Adepega is on the call now so that we could take our introduction.
Adiola will be joining late. It's
Okay.
in an emergency situation.
Oh,
Hopefully,
okay.
she'll be able to join us.
Okay. Okay, that's fine. Thank you very much for that update. Okay, Mr. DME is on our screen. We are going to start with you. Let's have our discussion. So we need to find out, you know, the word critical means crucial. Capabilities, one of their meaning is skills, the skill sets. So as HR professionals now, we want to know what are the part of the question I want to ask? Maybe I'll start with you. What are the core competencies, the core skills that you can consider essential for someone to excel in a career in HR? Yes.
Thank you very much, Chioma. For HR professionals, we are used to discussing competency around framework by different professionals that have gone ahead of us, people like Dave Ulrich, Peter Drucker, and the rest of them. So Dave Ulrich came with the first set of the critical competencies for HR, a competency model. It says that for an HR person, you must have business acumen, which is very, very critical as a competence. By business acumen, what do we mean? Understanding, in the layman's language, understanding how the business makes money and how the business can lose money, and what your role will be in helping the business to make money and helping the business to prevent losing money. That's one very critical competence that HR professionals must have, because that's, it takes you from being an entry level or a mid-level HR person to becoming a strategic HR business partner that is able to have a seat on that proverbial table. Meanwhile, we are no longer sitting on the table. HR has become the table that everybody sits around now, depending on the level of your competence and business acumen to be able to, propel the business, by leading the people strategy. Number two, as an HR person, you expect to be an activist. You should be an activist for the employees. What do you mean by being an activist for the employees? That is, you are the one that is advocating for the welfare, the well-being, both mental, physiological, psychological, of all the employees, ensuring that the employees, they have the right environment, the right tools, and of course, the right ecosystem to be able to bring the best of themselves to work daily. That is, bringing their whole self to work daily by ensuring that whatever is due to the employees, you are able to use that competency of advocacy to be able to get that for them. Number three, you must have what we call the strategic business partnering competence. You must be able to see the end from the beginning. And as HR, you must be able to envision, and you must be able to craft the HR strategy that will support the overall business strategy. How do you drive the entire business? There's that people strategy for the organization. That comes from your competence as understanding your strategic function to the business. Now, apart from those four, you must be a very good communicator. That is one critical competence that HR professionals must have. And when we talk about communication now, more important around this is for you to be an active listener. You must be able to listen, understand, analyze, and be able to interpret what people are saying. You must have, as a competence, emotional intelligence. This is very, very critical. At the seat of it is for you to be self-aware, be able to manage self, and then be able to empathize with others. understanding the emotion of people around you to be able to motivate them and galvanize them towards the goals, the vision and the mission of the organization. As an HR professional, you must be an innovator. You must be very creative. Innovation, creativity is a very, very strong competence that you need. Being able to improve of what is and being able to bring about what is not. You must be able to innovate by improving on the systems, processes that you have, finding new ways and better ways of doing things, optimization leading to efficiency and effectiveness. And you must also be able to create something out of nothing, especially when everybody is down and they're not able to think straight. That is when HR brings that creativity into the room in order to be able to galvanize the people to think outside the box and think without the box to be able to bring out that solution. All right. Now, you must have the critical competence of data analysis. Data is the new oil for the business. You must be able to dissect data, mine data, and draw insights. Now, we are not talking about just playing around Excel, playing around numbers. We're talking about being able to dissect data, bring out the insight in the data, and be able to help management to take decisions in the interest of the business. That takes me to the next critical competence that you must have, which is critical thinking. You must be able to think deeply, to be able to look inward and find solutions for the business. For example, when COVID struck, businesses were down. Top management didn't know what to do. That was the high point of the HR professionals taking over the table. We had to think without the table, think without the box, for us to be able to drive our businesses to continue to, make money and continue to survive. That was the era when we had to think of, work from home, flexible work, and all of those things. Still helping the business to make money, even while people were locked down. That is critical thinking. It's a very rare competence that HR professionals, they must have. Interpersonal skill. You must be able to relate across board, especially in this realm. The era that HR took over the business space was the industrial relations era, when you need a lot of employee engagement, when you need to actually be able to relate with people, especially for unionized environments. You must be able to understand how to leverage relationship, both from the shop floor guys to the executive and the board members. That is very, very important for you to succeed in HR. Then you must be very analytical competence, analytical skill. This is very, very, very important for any HR to survive. Let me pause there for my other co-panelists, but these are just some of the things that I would like to put out there. We could discuss so much more about the critical competencies. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ahmed. I'm sure everybody would agree with you with all those skills you've highlighted. I mean, these days, many HR professionals are losing their jobs because they do not have the business acumen to be able to identify areas where the companies can actually bring in much more profit to the table, right? So these skills you've actually highlighted are things that we need. I would like Chidima, I don't know if you would want to come in here to also add to the skills, capabilities that are required by HR professionals for us to be able to increase in the level of our career. Would you want to say one or two things before I share it with you?
Thank you very much, Chioma. I will just add that. I'll just add, Jemmy have said it all, but let me just add digital literacy. In this day and time, and because of the changes going on in our environment, HR professionals can no more do without being digitally educated. Before now, it is easy for us to say, I don't want to be a social media person. I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. But the truth is that that is a critical skill for us to survive, because even in relating with the employees, in being able to communicate, like he said, and communicate appropriately, depending on the model we want to use, depending on what message we are trying to pass, in order to be able to carry our job well, very well and effectively. For instance, let us look at recruitment. Gone are the days where you just do adverts and then sit down or expect people to bring in CV. Now people go around and look for the talent they need. And to get that talent, where do you find them? It's on the digital space. Check your LinkedIn, check your other digital spaces. You find out that that is where you find the critical talents that you need for the organization to survive. So it's now difficult for any HR to exist and perform effectively without being digitally educated, without being conversant with the trend that is going on, without knowing what is happening as it is. Yemi have mentioned data-driven decision-making. I will also include employee engagement and employee experience. I will include risk management. Because of the situation, the world we deal in, because of the disruptive nature of this time, because of the volatile nature of our times, I mean, you can't even predict what's going on. You can't even predict where a riot is going to break out, when fuel scarcity is going to happen. HR must be ready to manage the risk of the organization, because in our business environment, there are both people risks, business risks, and other. It's very key that HR professionals are very conversant, get to understand what these risks would be in relation to the nature of their business, because the risk that exists in my business wouldn't be what exists in your business, and they know how to mitigate that. That is very key for HR professionals. Would I want to add negotiation skill? We are always doing that, either at the point of recruitment, trying to negotiate compensation and benefit with the talent we are discussing with, or even at the point of making presentation to management as for employee welfare and benefits and well-being. We also need that negotiation skill at every point in time, even at the point where the employee approaches us for things. Not having negotiation skill is a no-no for HR these days, because constantly we are either negotiating with all stakeholders, with management, with employees, with colleagues, with vendors. In fact, all our life is about negotiation. I once told someone that you negotiate everywhere, even at home you are negotiating. So for someone to be effective as a HR professional, you need that negotiation skill to excel. I will hold on here while I allow the other panelists to continue. Thank you. Thank you, Chioma. Over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So I would like Mr. Gobil to thank you so much for all your points, madam. I mean, there are so much. I've been writing. I don't know if I mentioned to every of our attendees to kindly get their writing materials, because it's going to be a very interactive session. You've seen it already. It has started already, right? So I would like you to note these key points, because I mean, they are all on points. Employee engagement, employee experience is very key in ensuring that HR is able to interact with these people and get them to do their work. So in that light, I would like Mr. Gobiru to kindly elaborate on the importance of empathy, emotional intelligence, and cultural awareness. How can you, I want you to elaborate on it, and cultural awareness in building a successful relationship and fostering inclusivity within an organization. So I'd like you to please tell us more about that, because emotional intelligence is something that every HR practitioner actually needs. You need to first of all understand you yourself, and then understand the people that work around, because if there's no good understanding, there'll be a very, very serious problem. So sir, over to you. Please help us elaborate on the importance of empathy, emotional intelligence, and cultural awareness in an organization.
Thank you very much, Chioma. Before I go on to speaking about empathy and EQ, let me add that in addition to all that have been said by my co-panelists, Adeyemi Ajayi and Mrs. Obiejesi, one other critical or some other critical skills that HR professionals should have for them to function properly, and of course continue to be that table where others come to sit to talk about strategy or discuss strategy, of course, is the skill for execution excellence. When you have the business acumen, the data literacy skills, the digital agility, the people advocacy skills, you have change management skills, you have mediation and conflict resolution skills, you have negotiation skills, like we have said, you have problem solving and critical skills. It is important that as an HR professional, you should also have that critical execution excellence, the ability to actually execute whatever strategy you have developed to support the business, the ability to ensure that you see that strategy, that has been developed from, the starting line, of course, to the finishing line. So critical execution skill is very, very important for us as HR professionals too. Now, to your question around the importance of empathy and emotional intelligence, of course, and cultural awareness in building successful relationships. Empathy, like we always say, provides the foundation for constructing bridges and constructing bridges of understanding, and of course, bridges of understanding and disagreements, which are then converted into chances. So you use empathy to lay the foundation. You use empathy to construct bridges, between either a group of employees, or between the employer and the employee, or between a line manager and a direct report, with the view, of course, to understanding, the areas of disagreement that may exist, and of course, converting those areas of disagreement into opportunities for growth in the relationship between the people who are involved, or even growth for the business eventually. Now, EQ, or emotional intelligence, on the other hand, of course, aids in the development of what we call an inclusive language in the workplace. An inclusive language is one that also helps to transcend, all those cultural, and social boundaries that may exist in the workplace. So for us as HR professionals, it is important. I was speaking at a session yesterday, and I said the basic foundation, of the HR profession, of course, is compassion and empathy. When you take out compassion and empathy, then that human that you have in human resource management is completely out. If we are not humane, then we have no business, of course, being in HR. So empathy provides that very strong foundation, for building bridges, and for developing relationships in the workplace. Because it is empathy, like I said, that helps you to smoothen areas of conflict, areas of disagreement, and then converting these areas of conflicts and disagreement into strengths, and opportunities for the growth of even the relationship between the parties involved, and of course, for the growth of the business or the organization. Now, EQ, on the other hand, like my colleagues have said here, to have you as HR professionals, you must have very strong, emotional intelligence. You must be self-aware. And being self-aware, of course, means understanding yourself, knowing yourself. You must also be socially aware. Being socially aware, of course, is also understanding the emotions of those with whom you work in the workplace, or those with whom you relate. When you understand, when you are self-aware and you are also socially aware, then you are able to manage the relationship between yourself, and others, either in the workplace or generally, of course, in relationship across. Now, when all of this put together are then synergized, what it does, of course, is to foster inclusivity in the organization. And when you foster inclusivity and diversity in an organization, you build an organization that is on a trajectory, of growth, and an organization, of course, that becomes a great place to work. Thank you very much, Chioma.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. My notebook is full. I wish I can show it to you. Thank you. That was really, really on point. Thank you so much. And I've been seeing people's comments. They've been sharing their comments concerning your discussion so far. Thank you so much. So while we are still talking about emotional intelligence, I would like us to also share some practical examples, right? We can share examples around how emotional intelligence has impacted our employees' performance positively in terms of collaboration with our overall team members in the organization. So, Mr. Adeyemi, I don't know if you have some examples you like, maybe one or two instances where there is a need for us to use emotional intelligence to calm down situations and then be able to help. Maybe it might be a senior manager, might be a team lead, might be a team member, to ensure that they optimize their strength in the industry. Would you want to go
Thank
first,
you.
or Madam
Thank
Chidima?
you. Thank you very much, Chioma.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Chioma. Let me share one very recent case in my organization. So there was this particular line manager who had two male direct reports and one female direct report. So the female direct report was the last to join the team. Now, this manager is being used to the male direct report. And there are certain kind of language, guys' language, like we call it, that he uses when he's talking to them. Meanwhile, it's a sales team. So, the kind of pressure that comes with a sales function in terms of, meeting revenue targets and all of that. Now, this particular new employee, the female employee who just joined the organization, just within 3 months of joining the organization, apparently she was pregnant. She herself didn't even know that she was pregnant. Just found out that she was still on probation. As much as she was trying to pull her weight, most of the time she's always slow and moody. But the line manager, being somebody that is used to, having male direct reports, wasn't emotionally intelligent enough to be able to get closer to this particular employee to understand what was going on with her. And before we know what was going on, this lady lost the pregnancy. She had a miscarriage. Meanwhile, it was at the critical period that the team needed to meet their target. And Ed was let loose in one of their meetings when the line manager was asking this particular female direct report for the quarterly report, trying to review her performance and all of those things. Long story short, the lady resigned in the course of all of this whole thing. This lady that resigned, she moved on to join a competitor. And in a space of 6 months, the places where the team had a very strong performance and customers, this lady won most of those customers to the new competitor that she has joined. And long story short, fast forward 3 months down the line, the particular team lead, we had to let him go because he was losing market share. Just recently, we brought back that same lady that was let go.
Wow. Like the lady came back to the organization.
Yes. Because over time, while all of these things were going on, we kept on trying to engage this line manager. One of the things that we do in our organization is to have regular training around soft skills, emotional intelligence, empathy, and awareness for our middle level managers, especially for those of them in what you call the stressed functions, where there's a lot of pressure, high pressured functions, But we discovered that despite interventions over time, he just has the attribute of losing his temper when he's with his team, when there's no other person overseeing the conversation. Again, that is just a typical case of not being emotionally intelligent enough to be able to understand the different dynamics within the team and being able to have that broad mind to leverage emotional intelligence to be able to have that sense of diversity and inclusion. Just because you have a female member of, in your team, there are certain things that you expect that will be different from the other male counterparts. There are periods of the months that you have to be alert and be aware that, oh, she may be sluggish, she may be slow, certain things may be running through her hormones at that period that the male employees may not necessarily go through. Also, you also know that for a lot of organizations these days, they have policies that are anti-females. Things like, you shouldn't get pregnant within your first 2 years of joining the organization, things of that nature. And then you have female employees, when things are going on with them, they hide it because the company policy says you can't be pregnant within 2 months, within 2 years and all of those things. Whereas we must have that emotional intelligence, be able to understand our environment, different things happening to different members of our team, and be able to build that sense of diversity and inclusion that will help us to ensure that we manage different talents with empathy and with understanding. I will pause there for my other panelists.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I identified something that is very, very key that I think got missing in that story. That if was clearly stated, it would not have gotten to this state. Is the word communication? I think the team lead needs to go through training to understand how to effectively communicate. Because if you have team members that work under you, that you manage, you are responsible for them, right? You are responsible. They don't own you the opportunity to know their personal affairs. But the way you relate with them as an HR professional will determine if your team member is willing and ready to tell you things that are personal. Someone might be going through depression, for instance, and all you care about is your target, how you want to achieve your target for the second quarter, how you want to make sure that the work is done. So communication is very, very key. I want to call on Madam Chidima. Please, can you let us know what are the roles effective communication can actually play in building and sustaining a high-performing team? How do we ensure that these people can be transparent and be able to communicate effectively to avoid issues that will make maybe an employee leave? Take for instance, Mr. Adeyemi's communication now. One of the best hands had to leave because there was a mismanagement. So please take us through, if you have maybe practical experiences that the HR professionals can actually learn from, please. The floor is yours. You can take on the discussion now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Before I go on to that discussion, let me first of all say something. At an earlier conversation, Alhaji Gobre said something. He said, no matter how good you are, you will go nowhere without emotional intelligence. That's the way I'll summarize it. Because as we speak, I have a manager in my organization that has been asked to step down because the whole department wrote a petition and they would rather leave if he doesn't leave. Why? He could not control his emotions. There was, they had an event ongoing. There was a disruption. They had a program flow already. And somehow the people that were supposed to perform were not available. Someone else was asked to perform. And he just came and felt that, oh, why would you disobey my instruction? Why would you change what I have put in place? Now, rather than find a way to communicate that or wait for the event to end, he blew up there. That led to so many things. That is one thing with emotional intelligence. We must know how to manage our emotions. Talking about communication, of course, there is no gainsaying that communication plays a very vital role if HR professionals are to execute their role properly. Reason being that we communicate all the way. We have to pass information from management to employees. We have to communicate with various stakeholders, be it management, employees, external parties. We are always communicating. And the way and manner we communicate, the way and manner we pass that information is very, very key. I'll give you an example. A line head once told an employee who has been waiting, like Yemi said, to get pregnant. And the line head, oh, it's unfortunate that your pregnancy is happening at this time. The employee didn't find it funny. If someone had been waiting for years to get pregnant, a woman who is married, and for one reason or the other, you are saying it's unfortunate the pregnancy is coming at this time. So that probably the line head was trying to say something else, saying that, oh, maybe they should do something differently now. She should have communicated it in a different way. Oh, thank God you are pregnant. However, maybe we should just look at how we can make this convenient for you and see how you can work around it. By the comment she made, the employee was quite demotivated. I also have had a situation where about 3 or 2 team leads resigned within 1 month. How? A general manager or a senior manager got to the meeting and was quite angry and said, see, I don't care about what you think. I don't care about what you're passing through. That is HR business. As for me, if you can't do the job, get out. And the employees did what? They got out. He's probably trying to talk about performance, but I'm not sure he communicated that view properly. He didn't take into consideration that the information he's sending out could send different messages. Part of communication too, which helps for HR professionals to work effectively, is listening. Employees talk to us in different ways and different, their body language, their gestures, their moods. All those is part of the ways human beings speak. And as leaders, as HR professionals, we must watch them. We must take note of those non-verbal communications and interpret them, or at least dig deeper to find out what the issues are. If not, we'll be losing great talent. I've had to work with someone whom I noticed kept frowning until I had to ask what the matter is. Incidentally, the baby was ill. I've also had to work with someone that you just see coming in late. Sometimes we HR professionals, we are very fast at giving sanctions, at giving queries, at applying company policy. But it may help to dig further, to dig deeper, to find out what could be the cause of this. How can we help this person before we begin to apply sanctions? And all those have to do with communication. Are we listening? Are we seeing those things they are not saying? Are we listening to the employee rather than telling them what the policy says and what they need to do? Same goes to talking to senior management and passing information, carrying the employee's need. We may need to listen first and then find a way and the right time to pass that information. I tell people sometimes the HR people have this tendency of when we present things, it's not approved sometimes. But I've noticed that it's either a matter of timing, a matter of nature of presentation, a matter of the way we communicate and our style of communication. All those are key. A HR person needs to understand. And for each person, there are peculiar ways of communicating with them. Some like when you want to talk to them, I worked with a line manager, a colleague of mine, who, if you are in her department and you dare go to her and say, oh, and call her first name, you are done. She's done with you. There's nothing you can do that is good. By her own nature, you can call others. You can even call the MD their first name. That's different. But for her, for you to get access to her, you must relate with her in that manner. So those are some of the key roles. Emotional communication skill is very key if HR is going to deliver, even in communicating policies, in communicating strategies, in communicating policies and procedures, even in change management process, which is constantly happening in the way that we are introducing technology, constantly happening that in the way that we are introducing new policy, we must be able to communicate effectively. Effective communication also helps with conflict resolution. Where there are human beings, there will always be conflicts, disagreements. I just mentioned one. And it takes for an open communication to resolve such. And one should know how to handle that as a HR person. Also, in terms of performance management, the way I'm going about, you will say that every aspect of our job requires effective communication skill. Performance management, giving feedback. A good employee can perform badly, can be unproductive due to bad communication style. A good employee, you can also bring out the best from someone based on communication style. So it's important that we know how to relate to each one. During crisis management is also very key. Emotional intelligence, communication skill is very key during crisis management, because that is the point where whatever you're going to say must be relevant. Whatever you're going to say must be addressing the point. And whatever we are saying must show empathy, must exhibit empathy in that communication, so that the crisis, we do not also push it overboard. In the issues of training and development, communication skill is also very key if we are going to pass the right message and ensure that we get the right feedback. I will stop there. It builds trust and credibility, because when you communicate, when you send the right communication, and when you communicate transparently and with authenticity, you find out that people begin to trust you. It also gives credibility. It encourages open dialogue. If you do not talk, people probably just hide in themselves. They don't come out. They don't express themselves. Sometimes the way we communicate can also make people not to open up and say what they want to say, not to give suggestions. I once have an MD who would tell someone, so if you know it, why didn't you do it? I mean, why do you have to wait for this time to come and say? So you then find out that you are in a town hall meeting and you are encouraging staff to talk. They are not talking because of the response they know they will get. That also hindered that organization, because people were not giving suggestions. And people's suggestion is very critical in any organization, because they are in the business as well. And you can never tell what you can get for them. It facilitates collaboration and teamwork, which is very key. We collaborate in the organization with other departments. We collaborate with other stakeholders. We collaborate with other organizations. If we do not communicate well, respectfully, there will be breakdown in communication, and that will not be effective. It promotes transparency and accountability. And I would encourage that we prioritize communication so that we can create a connected, informed, and productive workforce that will drive our organizational success. It's very key that we do that. Thank you, Chioma.
Thank you so much, Ma. Wow, wow, wow. Please, people, are you writing down? Are you noting things? Are you learning things? Let me see it in the chat box. Things you've picked up from Madam Chidima's communication, from Mr. Adeyemi's communication, from Mr. Gobri's communication. I mean, they've said a whole lot of skills, a whole lot of capabilities that have been mentioned. I mean, Tolu says a masterclass right here. Yes, Tolu, I agree with you. I mean, it's 100%. Thank you. Eyo says the 100% masterclass. As in, I have learned so much. Many of us have quite some of experience, but this discussion is going to help us broaden our experiences and expose us to certain things. You've heard about their practical experiences in their place of organization, current and previous organization, what has transpired. Right. So at this point, I would like to call on Mr. Godreau, because I want us to shift a little bit to leadership. I know he would have one or two things to say about communication, so he could actually still say that. But I want to say something. In recent world, we have a lot of Gen Zs, a whole lot of them. You see, you need to know as HR professionals how to manage these people, because if you do not manage them properly, you might end up losing people you've added to the team. And then you keep, just like what Mr. Adeyemi said, People keep coming in, they keep going out because of bad leadership. So, Mr. Gobril, sir, I would like you to talk to us about leadership. How can a leader actually harness the opportunity of having a good experience with the team members? How can we have a good work environment as leaders? What leadership qualities can actually can the HR professionals have so that they can have a winning team? Please, can you help us throw more light on that? Mr. Gobril, the role of leadership in strategic
Thank you very much. Sorry, I didn't realize I was muted.
Okay, can I take the question again?
No, I did hear you very well.
Thank you, sir.
In most organizations now, you will find that at least at the minimum, you will have at least 4 generations in the workplace. Beginning from those of us that I like to call Gen B, of course, what I mean, those of us that Gen Zs will call baby boomers. Of course, to the Gen X, the millennials, and of course, the Gen Zs. To be a very effective leader or manager of people and resources, you must have and own, some leadership skills and leadership qualities. One of such leadership skills, of course, and qualities is the communication skill, which we have just spoken about, and which my colleagues have thoroughly discussed. So I will not be dissipating energy on that because they've thoroughly, of course, dealt with that particular leadership requirement or quality that a leader must have. Now, while we were also discussing the critical competencies and skills that HR professionals should have, we spoke about the problem-solving skill. Now, the problem-solving skill as well as the critical thinking skill are essential qualities for a good leader. Now, the team lead or manager is the one that oftentimes members of the team run to when they get stuck with the ideas, because they believe that he's had quite some extensive experience managing people in the HR function or managing the HR function itself to be able to provide, in fact, something that you have all the answers, and that's why they keep running to you. So you must have critical thinking, leadership qualities, and of course, a problem-solving one. Because you are the go-to person, you must also be knowledgeable about, the essential HR and core HR competencies across the HR value chain, from talent acquisition to talent management to C&B to L&D to employee relations, such that when people then run to you, at least you are able to help them find answers, to those issues that they bring to you. That makes a very good leader, even though it is not that you are expected to know everything. Now, another quality that a good leader must have, and to be able to also lead a good team or a high-performing team, is ethical quality. A good leader, of course, must have very good ethical considerations, in the workplace. And when I say ethical consideration, you must be that person that everybody, knows that will not compromise on account of the fact that he wants to dispense favors. Yes, oftentimes we say that where procedures and processes terminate, that is where native intelligence, or empathy, or humaneness kicks in. But even at that, you do not empathize with the view to breaking rules, not bending rules. They are two different things. With a view, of course, to breaking. If you break rules, that amounts to an unethical conduct, But if you are to look at other ways of making the rules or the policies or your condition of service work, to the advantage of employees, then what you have done is to make the rules, of course, useful to the employees. So ethical conduct is very important. The fourth for me will be decision-making ability. You cannot as a leader sit on the fence. So when people come to you, you must be that one who, even if your decision at the end of the day turns out to be wrong, people will acknowledge the fact that you took a decision which probably turned out to be wrong, than saying that you sat on the fence rather than taking a decision as a leader. So at all points in time, you must be very decisive and you must take decisions as and when you have to. The fifth will be around integrity. Once you take out integrity, from the leadership qualities of an individual or a manager, then you have challenges, of course, in the workplace. If your direct reports or your team members cannot trust you to act or to do what you preach, if they cannot trust you, to also have their back, then you have integrity issues in the workplace. If they also cannot trust you, with, say, coming forward to discuss matters that are confidential and it remains confidential with you, then you are likely to have challenges, of course, with the team you are leading. Now, you must also have very good interpersonal communication skills to be a very good leader and to be able to lead across generations. EQ will kick in. Our psychological counseling strategies as HR managers will kick in at this time for you to be able to lead across the 4 generations of us that you have in the workplace. You also must be that change agent that people can relate to. You must be the change manager. You must be one who is able to adapt to changes, whether technological, or whatever kind of change at all. And you must be one who drives such kind of changes through, of course, a change management process in the workplace. Now, you must be the leader who also encourages continuous learning and provides continuous learning opportunity, for employees, in the workplace, particularly for members of the team, and of course across functions in the business. Now, Yemi spoke earlier on, and Chidima also spoke about it. Employee engagement is a critical leadership skill. The ability to engage with employees across the various divides and across the generation that you have in the workplace is a critical quality for a team lead or for a leader at all. And if you are a manager, whether a line manager, whether you're a CEO, whether you are a member of the C-suite, your ability to engage, with the various generations that you have in the workplace is a hallmark of your leader, is a hallmark, of your position as a leader in the organization or whatever kind of organization, of course, that you work in. So for me, leaders must have all of this quality, but above all, and like I said, leaders must be compassionate. They must also be empathetic. The hallmark of a good leader is one who actively listens, to the team that he leads, who understands the needs of the generations in the workplace that he's leading, and who is able to relate to the needs of this generation without necessarily, of course, compromising the ethics of work and without compromising, of course, the deliverables that have to be achieved in the workplace. Thank you very much, Chuma.
Wow, thank you so much, sir. Thank you. That was really, really amazing. Thank you so much. You know, one particular thing all our panelists have said in the light of communication is that you really need to listen. As HR professionals, I see that that's a really, really serious issue. Remember, in the statement, or rather in the word nonsense, there's this word that is captured there, sense. That means nobody can just wake up and say rubbish. So no matter how difficult a team member is actually proving to be, what you need to do is to calm down, listen to what that person is saying. Thank you so much, Mr. Gobril. You've actually highlighted so many points. We need to have good business acumen as leaders. We need to have integrity. You see that word integrity? Wow, it's a good core value that every individual should incorporate. You need that value, integrity. It's very, very important. If you have integrity, so Jumoke says, HR, calm down. Yes, let's be calming down. No, thank you so much, Jumoke. We are too hot. Thank you. You know, when you have integrity, I mean, people can vouch for you. Your words will always be of great value. Thank you so much, Mr. Gobril. I really, really appreciate those points you've given to us. You know, you also mentioned ethical values. We need to have that too. Thank you. So at this point, I'd like to switch a little over to data analytics, right? So for data analytics, what I'm switching over is that in all those things we've talked about, in terms of employee engagement, how do we measure it? What HR data does our organization keep? You know, we have upcoming HR professionals here. We have people that are the entry level. We have people that are the mid level. We have people that are the senior level, and people at the management team. You know, we have different categories of HR professionals on this call, and they would want to know. Madam Chidima, please, can you help us? Let us know what HR. So this question is going to cut across all the panelists. So it's going to be a discussion now. So three of you at interval, right, will give your thoughts. So if Chidima is saying something and you also want to add to what she's saying, so you could just pause her to talk about it. Adeyemi, the same thing. So if you have a point where she's talking, and at that point, you know, this particular session has to be very hot now, right? So I want to know, as HR professionals, what are the key performance indicator or metrics that are commonly used to measure our achievements? You know, success is measured. So what are those key indicators, those metrics that HR professionals need to be on the lookout for? Because these are things that will measure our work over a period of time. The floor is open to our panelists, so please, you could take on the session now. Chidima, could you please start? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chioma. You will agree with me that data is the new oil, and we are in a world, particularly in the HR function, where you cannot do without being able to identify your data, analyze them, and interpret them. Talking about the kind of data that HR professionals will need, definitely in the HR department, your rate of retention is key, attrition rate, because the environment we are in is such that there is high mobility of employees, and losing talent or taking in talent is very critical to the performance of any organization. It's then critical for HR department or for HR professionals to monitor the rate of attrition, the rate at which their staff exits, the rate at which employees leave the organization, because that also means that they are shedding talent. What kind of talent are they shedding? What kind of people are leaving? What are the skills that are leaving? So that at the point of recruitment, they would know what to recruit, how to recruit, and when to recruit. Another thing we need to look at is employee engagement level. That ties into any company's performance and bottom line. The level of employee engagement and the policies, HR policies that we churn out, how much are these being accepted? This is also one of the metrics we look at. The other metrics that is looked at is time of recruitment time. How long does it take for us to fill a particular space, a particular position that the company's organization, for a vacancy that exists? How many days, how long does it take? Then cost of employee, cost per employee of an organization is also very key. These are things that tell us how much our employees are, how productive our employees, or how much an employee is costing an organization compared to how much revenue is being generated. These are some of the key metrics we need to look at as HR professionals that also feature in a report, monthly report to organizations. The rate of absenteeism, number of days work as against number of days that employees are not in the office. Sick leave rates, how many days do they take out as absences as sick leave, off days as sick leave? That tells us how many days our employees have available to even work for the organization, to even perform, to even be productive in the organization. So some of these I've highlighted are some of the metrics we need to look at as HR professional. I'll let my colleagues chime in since it's an interactive conversation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me just add a few things here. Normally, I would like we talk about the types of data that HR collects. Let me try and categorize it into two. We have the primary data sources and the secondary data sources. Now, the historical data that helps you to be able to analyze trends, to do your trend analysis, do your regression analysis as HR. Because sometimes you say that if you don't know where you are coming from, it may be difficult to know where you are going. And also you want to also be able to relate, historical data. So those periods you may need to leverage a lot on secondary data, such as previous performance, the work experience, projects that have been handled. So those are data types that you also want to collect for each employee, especially when you are beginning to look at employees transiting from the technical competence level into leadership roles or mid-level roles. You want to look at some of the things that their quality of their experience, their previous performance, outcomes, and again, the project that they've handled before. Again, we also collect data based on the tenure or role in the organization, employee tenure, because we want to also use that also for your predictive analysis. They say that past performance is a predictor of future performance, because most of the time when you are interviewing, most of the times you don't know the employee. You are only trying to guess that this person will be able to perform when the person is hired or when the person is put into a role. So at that point, we ought to try and rely on secondary data in terms of how did the person perform in the previous role. So those are some of the data that we collect. Again, training hours. We also collect data, training hours, quality of training, number of trainings. These are historical data that we also make use of, because we collect those data as secondary sources because they're also relevant and useful for us. Now, that takes me into the performance measures that we have in the organization. So again, there are different performance models that organizations adopt. And data is very important in measuring those performance. Some companies, they use the OKR model. Some use the balance scorecard model. Some will still stay with their normal rating models, as the case may be. Some will use the KPI. Some will use a fusion of the KPI and the balance scorecard, as the case may be. So depending on which what you're trying to, which performance framework that you are using, may also determine the type of data that you want to collect. Employee satisfaction, those are the kind of the KPIs that you want to measure. Chidi has talked about employee engagement. My organization, we are very big because we're a global organization. We are very, very big on employee engagement because this speaks to performance across the country. Recently, we had the global employee engagement survey for the entire group, and it was quite interesting that for Nigeria, we moved from a 72% engagement level last year to 80% engagement level, in the current year. And that was something that was big for us. And then we moved from an 87% participation rate in the survey to a 97% participation rate in the survey. And of course, every member of my team got a special reward and an acknowledgement for raising that level of engagement, because it also spoke to productivity. Now, productivity per employee, that's one critical KPI that we're beginning to measure, because one of the things that finance usually use, to put themselves ahead of HR is to look at the revenue performance of the business. But now HR, we're able to tell a different story by looking at the productivity per employee. to let them know that if my people are not engaged and they are not delivering, your revenue is a lag indicator. However, what are the leading indicators that will ensure that, we are certain that we're going to meet that revenue outcome? For those of us that are used to the balance scorecard model, you know that we start by saying that you must have the right quality of employees with the right skill, the right competency, delivering the right processes for us to be able to produce the quality services that will meet our customer need. And when we satisfy our customer need and we delight them, they will, of course, patronize us, and then that will lead to revenue and profit for the business. Then we look at the quality of hire. That's another KPI. Beyond the time to hire, the turnaround time for hiring, we also want to look at the quality of hire. We want to look at the retention of new employee. That is the offer. They also want to look at the offer to acceptance ratio. How many offers did you make? How many people accepted your offer? How many talents, rejected your offer? These are very important KPIs that we need to also measure. You also want to look at compliance rates. Chidi earlier also spoke about risk management organization. What is your compliance ratio? How many fines did you get? Are we able to ensure that there are no risk, that you are complying, to the various regulations? So these are some of the data, the types of data you collect, and of course, the performance measures that are available for HR. I want to yield the conversation for Mr. Gobir at this point. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ademi and Chidima. Let me, so that I do not attempt to reinvent the wheel, I will leave out, of course, most of those HR metrics that both Yemi and Chidima have spoken about, and just quickly highlight some other ones that I think as HR we are tracking in the workplace. And part of those performance indices that we're tracking as HR in the workplace, of course, is employee cost, as a percentage of total revenue. How does the cost per employee, relate to the total revenue of the organization? We're also tracking employee cost as a percentage of even total operating expenses, total OPEX in the workplace. Businesses, of course, now track tit-to-tail ratio. And what is tit-to-tail ratio? When we speak about tit-to-tail ratio, we're talking about, of course, how many people, for manufacturing concerns, for example, how many people do you have in the support function as opposed to those who are actually in the technical or engineering function? If you begin to have, for example, for a business that is basically a manufacturing concern, if you begin to have more people in the support roles of HR, of finance, of internal control, of sales and marketing, much more than the numbers that you have in the plant and in the factory, then you know that something is wrong, of course, with either your recruitment strategy, or with the headcount that you are carrying. Now, Yemi and Chidima have spoken about retention, but in addition to what they have said, what some organizations track, and what we track, for example, in my place, are the retention rate for those we call our high-value employees, HVEs, and of course, for employees in critical roles. Are we able to keep them? Are they happy with remaining with the business? What percentage of them actually leave the business in 1 month, in the quarter, half yearly, or of course at the end of the year? Another critical HR metric, which we also track, of course, is the diversity ratio. What is the ratio of male employees in the workplace to female employees, or what is the ratio of female employees in the workplace? What is the ratio of female employees that you have in management roles, whether in senior management or in executive management in the workplace? That's a metric that HR, of course, now tracks. The second, of course, is demographic. Demographic around the 4 generations that you have in the workplace. For example, how many of your employees, are in the Gen Z generation or category? How many of them are millennials? How many of them are Gen X's or Gen Y's? How many of them, are are baby boomers. We are able to also determine, what the retirement rate would be, for example, over time. Finally, there's what we also call HR to employee ratio. What percentage, of your total employees are, those in the HR function actually constitute, so you're looking at HR as a percentage of your total headcount in the business. These are some of the metrics that I think we track in the HR space, and these are data that are generated from all of this. Are what helps, of course, to take informed data-driven decisions and to provide strategic data-driven for businesses and in the workplace now. Thank you, Choma.
Wow, 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 wow. Thank you so much, Mr. Gobiru. Thank you so much, Madam Chidima. Thank you so much, Mr. DME. I mean, it's a packed session. Please, people, if you agree with me, let me see your emoji on the chat box. It's a packed session. It's a packed session. Thank you so much. I mean, put your hands together for our panelists. They've been so amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you. I would like to add, part of the things you said and the other panelists, you did focus on, the three of you focused on cost per employee, quality of hire, retainership of new hire, compliance rate. These things are things that HR professionals should actually pay attention to. Every month we do birthday celebration, we eat cake here and there. Finance is not smiling, because they know what the cost of purchasing these things are. As HR professionals, we should pay attention to these things, those things that will cost the employee. You want to hire a new employee, have you considered where the employee will be seated? Have you considered the cost of purchasing those items, the laptop, the mouse, the internet that will be connected to the person's device, the mobile device, the airtime, the data? So you don't just employ people, you don't just wake up and say a particular unit needs additional personnel to join the workforce. Have you maximized the people that the company have given to you to work with? Have you analyzed their strengths, their weaknesses, areas where they need to, do more before you are requesting? So you don't just request as an HR professional. You need to look out for those areas where the cost has to be put in place. Please, let's put our hands together with our emojis once again to appreciate our panelists, because we're going to be going to the next session now. Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Gobiru. Thank you, Madam Chidima. Thank you, Mr. DME. I don't know if Madam Adiola has joined the session, but honestly, we appreciate you. We appreciate you dearly. Please appreciate them. Put your hands together, use your smiley, your emoji. Thank you. So it's an insightful session. Thank you so much. Please put one or two words together. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm going to be taking your comments now before we move to the next session. So if you have one or two questions you want to ask, you could also put it in the comment section so that I can pick it up and direct the question to the panelists you want to ask the question. So Olusomi says it's insightful. Fumi says we appreciate you. Tony says it's loaded extraordinary. Everybody's saying thank you to the panelists. Thank you so much for the session, for the expository session. Thank you so much. Excellent session. This session is loaded and interesting. Thank you so much. Very impactful. Loaded, in fact, with fire. So I'm waiting for your question before we move to the question segment from the audience. I would like to let us know that our panelists today are also one of the people that are contesting for one role or the other with the CIPM 2024 elections. Thank you so much. Thank you. I see your comments. Yes, I got a new insight from emotional intelligence. So I'm going to be giving Mr. DME, I'm going to be giving Madam Chidima, I'm going to be giving Mr. Gobiru 4 minutes each for them to talk about their campaign, for them to talk about the election for CIPM 2024, the role that they are contesting for, and also to convince us so that we can vote for you for your elections as well. Thank you. So, Mr. Gabriel, let's start with you. The floor is yours. 4 minutes, please.
Okay. Thank you very much. I have come to seek your support and, of course, your vote for election as president of the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management. I'm a 35 years HR veteran and, well, 38 years as a matter of fact. And I'm a 35-year veteran of the CIPM, which I joined way back in 1989. I've been a fellow of the Institute for 18 years now. I have served the Institute from being a pioneer branch secretary in Kaduna to being the second chairman of the branch. I got elected to council in 2006, and I've been in and around council since 2006 to date. I've served on various committees of council. I currently serve as chair of the Professional Conduct and Ethics Committee of the Institute. I have just led my committee to complete a review of our professional conduct and code of conduct and ethics document. I've been previously chairman of the audit committee. I also sit on the board of trustees of the CIPM. But that's not why I'm asking you to elect me. I'm asking that you elect me because I have an agenda to drive the growth of the Institute, to consolidate on the achievements of past presidents and past leaders of the Institute up until the current administration. And that agenda is what we call the SOAR agenda, SOAR. That agenda speaks to strengthening our strategic alliances and collaborations with other professional institutes, either in Nigeria or globally or internationally. Strengthening our strategic alliances, of course, with government agencies and with private organizations. We do have right now quite a number, of relationships that we have established. One of such relationships which we have ongoing, which we are trying to concretize and consolidate, is our relationship, of course, with CIPD in the UK. We already have a memorandum of understanding signed. It is just to conclude the arrangement. Our intention, of course, is to go ahead to conclude this arrangement if the current administration does not. Why do we want to do this? It is to be able to say that when you have a CIPM certificate, you should be able to also access certification from CIPD and vice versa. We have a lot of our members who are now playing, of course, in the international community. So they should be able to carry our certificate out there to say, I want to practice HR, or at least take our certificate to CIPD to say, look, I'm a full member and I'm associate of CIPM, but I am ready, of course, to take the CIPD certification, but of course, leveraging on the certification that I already have from CIPM. We are not saying hand your certification to us on a platter of food, no, but can we look at what our curriculum is speaking to, as compared to what CIPD has? Can we also do this with SHRIM in the US? It's part of the strategic alliances that we're looking at, of course, also collaborating with government agencies in Nigeria, whether at the federal or at the state level. The second, which is the O in the SOAR agenda, of course, is optimizing our membership value proposition. The intention, of course, is to cater to the needs, the aspirations, the motivations and the expectations of the various stakeholders, the generations, like we said, we have in the workforce, and the demography of the institute, such that every member, regardless of their generation or background, regardless of wherever they are, can feel valued and empowered, for being a member of the institute. So in doing this, we will create, of course, tailor-made programs, mentorship initiatives, and continuous learning opportunities, for members of our institute. So we ask you to imagine, of course, a career, advancement resources in your institute, specialized certification opportunities, and access, of course, to vibrant professional network, all under one institute, the CIPM. The A in the SOA agenda speaks to automating and digitalizing our processes across all service touchpoints. The intention, of course, is to properly position the institute as a thought leader in Africa and beyond Africa. We are already a member of the African HR Confederation. We are already a member of the World Federation of People Managers. But are we able to use, digital technology, AI, to modernize our processes, streamline our service delivery, and of course, leverage technology to become a thought leader in Africa? So again, I ask you, imagine a CIPM with a website and a membership portal that is a one-stop shop for members with online learning modules on LMS, real-time updates, and of course, seamless access to resources. The last of our agenda, which is the R in the SOA agenda, of course, is reskilling and retooling our employees and leaders, whether across branches or at the secretariat of the institute. How do we intend to do this? We intend to deliver unique offerings and services to our members and other stakeholders, of course. And in doing this, we want to do it promptly. So we intend to reskill and retool our HQ team and leaders across all the branches, of course, by ensuring that we deliver and use them to also deliver on CIPM's promises to its members. So we will continue to invest in training. We will continue to attract top talent to your institute. We will continue to foster a culture of innovation. So again, we ask you to imagine a dynamic HQ team and branch leaders that are all equipped, to anticipate industry trends ahead of time, provide expert guidance, and expert advice to members of the institute, and of course, continue to deliver exceptional service to all stakeholders. Now, so the SOA agenda is not just a campaign slogan. It is a blueprint for the transformation of our institute. And it represents a commitment by my very humble self to taking your institute from where it is now to the next level. My name once again is Ahmed Ladam Gobir. I'm a fellow of the institute and I'm running for president of the CIPM. And I ask you all to please support me, not only by campaigning on my behalf, but by ensuring, of course, that you vote for me from the 15th of this month to the 23rd when we eventually have the AGM. Thank you all for giving me the opportunity to speak to you. And thank you for tolerating me.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ahmed Gobir. Thank you so much for a well-articulated speech. Of course, yes, you've got our votes already. I'm seeing what everybody is writing on the chat box. Yeah, so at this point in time, thank you so much, sir. I'd like to call Mr. Adeyemi Akinfemi to take 4 minutes. Please, let's keep to our time because I have 2 other persons that I'm going to introduce to the audience to also listen from. So please, 4 minutes, Mr. Adeyemi Akinfemi, let's hear from you. Introduce yourself and the role you are campaigning for. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chioma. I won't take up to 4 minutes. For me, it's about innovation, it's about creativity, it's about efficiency, it's about service. Having served from being a chapter chairperson, in fact, from being a chapter secretary, becoming a chapter chairperson in Lagos, becoming the secretary of the branch in Lagos, moving to become the chairman for Lagos Island chapter, and then back to the branch as vice chairman, then eventually taking over the saddle of leading the biggest branch of the institute in 2015 to 2017. And big on things I've done in the service of CIPM. The first time that CIPM needed somebody to provide a solution to deliver the annual conference during the COVID era, for the first time, we brought in creativity together with my team to deliver the very first online virtual conference of the institute using a platform that nobody has used before. And that is something, the Airmeet platform. We're able to hold exhibition and every other thing on a digital platform for the institute for the first time. Again, the following year, I moved on to also lead the team that also delivered the first hybrid conference in Abuja of the Institute. I was also part of the team that delivered the first hybrid academic conference of the Institute, bringing in innovation and creativity. Currently, I lead the ICT steering committee of the Institute because we had all the complaints. One of the things that propelled me to take on this challenge, all the complaints about calling the HQ, not being able to get responses on time, the website not being user-friendly, all of those things. What I've done is to take on, all of those issues. In the last 7 months, we have just delivered the new portal of the Institute. Now you have a new application portal that's going to come on after the election, once I return back, hopefully. And currently, we also have a new membership portal that all of you can be able to engage with right now. The current e-voting portal, which is for the first time in the history of our institute, we're having our own e-voting portal, which is being used for this particular election. I was able to deliver it just in 24 hours before the go-live date. And to the glory of God, all these projects, they're about 95% completion now. In another 3 months after the AGM, we should be launching fully our new portal. That is not all. My interest is on our website. We need to begin to retool that website to have AI functionalities and chatbots. Then before we then develop the CIPM app. All of these are things that I want to drive through for the Institute, in addition to all the other areas where, of course, I have my touch point on. I'm asking that you return me back to council while I continue to serve the Institute. Thank you very much. Adeyemi Ajayi is my name. I'm a fellow of the Institute.
Thank you, Mr. Adeyemi. So I don't think you did mention the role you're contesting for. Did you mention?
Yes, elected council member.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much for that communication. I'm sure you have our votes already. Madam Chidima, please, I'd like you to take the next few minutes, 4 to be precise, to talk about your campaign to everybody here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chioma. Like Yemi said, I may not need to use up to 2 minutes. My name is Chidima Justine of BAJC, MCIPM. Like we said, I'm running for the office of the Vice President of our Institute at this next AGM. And I'm here to solicit for your votes and thoughts. Now, why am I contesting? I've been part of leadership both from the grassroots, chapter chairman, financial secretary, branch, vice chairman, branch chairman, and then national treasurer. And currently, I lead the strategic and implementation committee of our institute. In that short while, I have noted that as a team, we have taken some stride. We have moved the institute to a level, and I think it's something that we must continue to pursue to bring it to actualization. The presidential candidate has spoken, and I won't repeat all here. As a vice president, if I'm voted in, my role will be to provide support to the team to achieve the vision of the president, which has been laid out before you, and as well as that, as well as the vision of the president, which will dovetail into the strategic agenda of the Institute as promulgated by the Governing Council. Beyond everything we have said, one thing I hope to also drive, apart from collaborating, inclusion, you've heard all that, it's the continual acceptance of CIPM certification, both with the public service and with the SMEs. Now, why say that? We will notice that the memo was let out to this public professionalization of HR in the public sector. CIPM is not just one of the bodies that will be certifying the HR and admin cadre in the public sector, but we need to move from there. I see a lot of conversation on the platform about our regulatory effectiveness. Do we do that? What are we doing about that? It's all about advocacy. We need to reposition CIPM, not just as a certificate issuing body, but as one that can partner with the government in terms of capacity building for the nation. One that can partner with stakeholders, the civil sector, in building capacity for the development of our nation. in providing counsel and advice in terms of policy when it has to do with people in our country. That is where the space CIPM should be in. How do we achieve that? I think advocacy plays a key role. Collaboration plays a key role in achieving this. And I would be deliberately driving that. That is aside from ensuring other things, including providing support in terms of inclusion of the HR, of the younger generation, the Gen Bs, the Gen Zs, the Gen Ys, bringing all this together, because these are ensure that we all are involved in building the institute you and I desire. Beyond that, I was also part of the leadership that currently have driven the CIPD mutual recognition with CIPM. And in the oncoming leadership doing that as we frame and with other professional institutes, I will be working with them and providing support using the experience already garnered and in creating more branches and providing support for our branches and the grassroots. These are some of the things I plan to drive. Why me? I've told you the things I want to do, but I also come with experience, not just about the leadership of the institute, from my various exposure. And when I talk about advocacy, I mean that I understand, considering that I work in the media, I also know how that can be deployed and what role it can play for us. Knowing that even as we speak, my organization is already partnering with CIPM to run the office, which I believe that most of you listen to, and churns out a lot of learning sessions every week, every Thursday, 4:30 to 5. I believe that that has also given us mileage in the public space. The public sector and SME are the highest employers of labor. Without them, the country will collapse. So CIPM needs to begin to impact on this sector to ensure that we also make positive change on our nation and the policies in managing people. I also am known, for those who relate with me, they can also vouch for my ability to drive home. Alhaji talked about execution. Execute on whatever strategy we put in place. In achieving this, we can't do it alone. We need your support. We'll listen. We've always listened. We'll take feedback and we'll implement. Together, we'll build the institute, not just on our own, but what you have proposed, we will try to implement. And those ones we cannot, we'll come back to say so. That is what we promise. That is what I promise. And I therefore appeal that you go out there, come 15th of this month and cast your vote. Not just casting your votes, tell others so that we do the right thing. Choosing leadership is a serious matter. Let's not sit on the fence and say it's not our business. It's our business, because as today, CIPM is the only HR institute we have in Nigeria.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
I've overspent my time. Thank you.
Okay, because I still have, I'm sure your communication and your brief has already gotten to everybody on this platform, and you've got our vote. So I have two more people I want to call upon to talk to us. Please, Mr. Aminu Ya, are you here? So he's also coming up for one of the roles, and he's a contestant too. So I want him to talk about what he's campaigning for. Please, 3 minutes, because we are far behind time. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Chioma. Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes, very audible. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So quickly, let me start, of course, by appreciating everybody on this call. Before I go into the introduction, as you requested, I want to just make a point. I've been around listening to this beautiful conversation, from Mr. Yemi, Mr. Gobir, Mrs. Obejesi. These are people that anytime you are talking of HR, if you put them forward, you don't have any problem to worry about. I just want to mention, for the benefit of we on the other side, that the one of the critical skill or emerging skill that is required for a successful HR journey as we speak today is gender consciousness. I decided to mention this, even though, yes, Mr. Gobir mentioned about diversity, but I want to stress the importance of being sensitive, with gender nowadays. I don't have time. I would have expatiated on that, but let's just start mainstreaming in our workplace the issue of gender. And the second point I want to mention to us is this issue of employee net promoter score. This is a very good data that we are interested in nowadays as HR, because employee net promoter score is the area that will give you the assessment that has to do with employee satisfaction and employee engagement. So I just want to bring out these two areas, I know, in addition to what the speakers have mentioned. So my name is Amin Yau, MCIPM. I presented myself for the position of elected council member. I have been around, in the institute doing so much, but not really around Lagos. Most of what I've been doing is down the north here. At some point, I served as the secretary to the CIPM branch in Abuja, vice chairman of the branch, and later chairman of the Abuja branch. I was opportune also, my strategic position that I'm living in Abuja has availed me the opportunity to be involved in the planning of the annual conferences from 2015 to date. So as I speak to you, through the mercy of God, I have seen different types of leaders that we had, that spearheaded the conference planning committee. So I've been around, we've been doing it together from the time of ACPOS, and of course, my fellow here, Mr. Adeyemi, and the present one who is the Kennedy Dike. Beyond that, as branch chairman, I've had the opportunity of being the chairman local organizing committee. There we've done quite a lot. But the most recent assignment that I'm proud of, and I will need to mention here, is that through the grace of God, I was the chairman of the presidential committee for the acquisition of CIPM House in Abuja. And Mrs. Chidima, that is here, she was part of that committee, very strong member of that committee. In fact, she started the process before I took over. And as we speak today, CIPM owns a house in Abuja that is called Paazuka Diale House. For those of you that were in our conference last year, we commissioned the property last year, and we had our council dinner for last year in that building. And beyond that, I had the opportunity of being a member of the Strategic Planning Committee from 2021. As we speak, Mrs. Chidima is my chairperson in Strategic Planning and Implementation Committee. Before then, I served as a member of Audit Committee of the board. In fact, if you recall, just last week we had a mega award. I was a member of that committee that selected all those important personalities that were awarded on that night. I've been around, like I said, we have done quite much. And through the interaction, I've come to realize that, yes, like what Mr. Gobir mentioned concerning his plan or agenda for advocacy, public sector advocacy and engagement. And of course, what Mrs. Chidima of AJC mentioned concerning her desire to pursue this issue of public sector, advocacy. I am from public sector. I want to believe that as long as you want to penetrate a family or a house, you will need an insider. Most of these things, I always said that we have been in public sector for some time. And if you look around CIPM, majority of those that are actively involved in affairs of CIPM are not from public service. Maybe maybe our coming out, people like me, will motivate and, raise the morale of those my colleagues in the public service that are not too, that are passive in participating in the activities of the institute. So I know for sure that my being there will provide as follows, like, one, getting access to public service, one, two, the needed information, because information is key to whatever success you want to achieve. At the same time, promoting the institute within the public service. Fourthly, down the note here, if I am elected, I know for sure it will increase the visibility of the institute down here, because wherever I go now, I try to introduce myself as a member of CIPM, because it has been long I was a member of council, so I'm no longer a member of council. I used to introduce myself as a council member. Now I'm no longer a council member. I introduce myself as ordinary member of the institute. Just imagine if I am elected as a council member, wherever I go, introducing myself will be easier. Anywhere I go, I talk CIPM. CIPM is in me. We have been together because I've been in HR all my life.
Thank you, Mr. Aminu.
Close
Thank
to
you,
2
Mr.
decades.
Aminu. Thank you so much. I'm sorry, I may need to pause you here because of the time.
Oh, thank you so much.
So much,
thank
sir.
you so much. I seek your opinion, your votes.
Thank
I hope
you.
you guys will support
yes,
me.
We will definitely support
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Aminu Yao. Thank you so much. So at this point, I would like to call upon one of our leaders in the AEHRP group, person of Dr. Michael